27 years after Princess Diana's tragic death, Buckingham Palace reveals a secret that could impact the monarchy. During quiet renovations at Kensington Palace, workers find a sealed room that hasn't been touched since Diana's last days. Inside, they discover a fancy jewelry box with a disturbing message for those seeking the truth. Princess Anne is assigned to catalog what's inside the box. What starts as a royal job quickly becomes a scary discovery of betrayal, cover-ups, and danger. Hidden letters, secret banks, and Diana's writings reveal a powerful conspiracy she was ready to expose. But someone made sure she never had the chance. As Anne investigates further, one question stands out. Who silenced the people's princess? Subscribe, like, and share as we follow Anne's shift from loyal royal to rebel seeking justice. The truth about how Diana died, trying to protect, may finally be revealed. The unexpected inheritance. In the spring of 2024, renovation crews began work on the quieter parts of Kensington Palace. What started as a structural update to one of the oldest sections became more significant. The workers found a forgotten room behind a sealed wooden panel, dusty and untouched since the late Princess Diana's final days. It was a space filled with memories, frozen in time. Once Buckingham Palace heard the news, it summoned Princess Anne. As the most senior working royal, known for her sense of duty and discretion, she was the best choice to oversee the cataloging of the room's contents. Although Anne had distanced herself from royal drama, she understood the importance of what had been discovered. Anne entered the quiet room and noticed dust covering evening gowns, boxes of handwritten notes, and photos of her late sister-in-law, Diana. Her feelings about Diana were mixed. At first, she thought Diana was too sensitive and eager for attention. But over time, away from the cameras, Anne saw how devoted Diana was to her sons and causes. There had been rare moments when Anne respected her. Among many items, one stood out to her. A beautiful jewelry box was at the back of a shelf, partly hidden by a silk scarf. It differed from everything else. A dark rosewood box with pearls and sapphires, still shining despite the dust. The craftsmanship was exquisite, giving it an intimate feel. As Anne picked up the box, she felt its unexpected weight, as if it held more than just jewelry. She examined it closely and noticed a subtle inscription on the lid. For those who dare seek truth, DS. These initials sent a chill through her. Diana Spencer. Not a title, just her name, personal and bold. Looking around again, Anne wondered if Diana had left more than clothes and trinkets. What truth was she hinting at? Why hide a message inside such a beautiful box? Holding the box, Anne realized it was more than an inheritance. It was a puzzle, and possibly a warning. Whatever was inside was meant for someone willing to look beyond the surface, who might regret not asking more questions while there was still time. Princess Anne sat in her private room, focused on the inscription in the jewelry box. For those who dare seek truth, DS. When she opened it, she found stunning jewelry, Burmese ruby earrings, a sapphire bracelet, and an emerald and diamond pendant. But strange markings on the back of each piece, coordinates, references, a bank code, suggested these were not just keepsakes. They were clues pointing to something more profound. As her fingers explored the box, Anne discovered a hidden compartment. Inside were old letters tied with a pale blue ribbon, smelling slightly of lavender. There were also glossy photographs of Diana in disguise, meeting unfamiliar people. Below them was a silver key labeled Zurich Deposit Box 837L. Feeling nervous, Anne opened the first letter, addressed to her in Diana's handwriting. The date was just 3 days before Diana died in Paris. The first line sent a shiver through her. And if you're reading this, then they succeeded in silencing me. Anne realized she had a warning from the past. Whatever truth Diana had uncovered was now hers to face, and someone wanted to keep it hidden. Diana's final confession. Princess Anne held a letter from Diana, feeling anxious but focused. Diana's neat handwriting told a serious story. She recalled a charity gala in 1995 when she first sensed something was wrong with a children's foundation she supported. When she sought answers, she faced evasions, threats, and a shocking truth. Money meant for landmine survivors and children was being taken for personal gain by influential people in business and people in the royal household. Diana wrote clearly about late-night meetings with reporters from France and Switzerland who were investigating a larger conspiracy. She mentioned code names, secret meetings, and recordings of conversations, with whistleblowers sharing documents and testimonies while fearing for their lives. Anne took a moment to breathe, her heart racing. She had often seen Diana as emotionally impulsive, but this was different. It showed strategy. Diana was aware of the dangers around her and kept careful records in case someone targeted her next. As Diana's letter continued, she shared her feelings about William and Harry. "I am not afraid to die," she wrote. but I am afraid for them and what they will face if this truth is buried with me." Anne blinked back tears, realizing she had misunderstood Diana. Her last months were about protecting her sons from hidden threats connected to the monarchy. At the end of the letter, an underlined sentence caught Anne's eye. Diana had left an insurance policy in a Swiss bank vault. The key from a hidden compartment felt heavy and significant. The truth Diana wanted to reveal was waiting, likely sought by someone else. The private jet landed in Zurich in the early morning fog. Anne traveled secretly, the key safe in her coat, feeling the pressure of responsibility. Anne showed the key and a tag labeled 837L at the Swiss bank. The clerk guided her through several security checks to a viewing room. Inside a box, she found stacks of documents, color-coded folders, and unsettling tapes with dates labeled. One read, "If I disappear." Anne played the first disc. Looking tired but determined, Diana spoke about influential individuals, explaining how charities were misused for arms deals and secret accounts. She expressed fear for her life but insisted that William and Harry needed the truth, not fairy tales. As the video ended, Anne felt overwhelming fear. This was more extensive than she had believed. An international network connected to institutions meant to protect people. Diana had been right, and she had paid a heavy price. The clerk's words chilled her. "You're not the first to ask about this box." Someone else claimed to be family. Anne tightened her grip on the key. The search for the truth had started, and she was no longer alone. The surveillance begins. Princess Anne returned to London, shaken by what she had discovered in Switzerland. Diana had recorded her life and was being hunted. Anne locked this evidence away, but did not know that someone was watching her every move. Signs of trouble appeared. Her phone clicked during conversations, her mail arrived opened, and her car broke down because someone had cut the brake line, which was explained as damage from rodents. Suspecting foul play, Anne asked a retired British intelligence friend to check her home and devices. He found tracking software and hidden listening devices. Someone was spying on her and knew about Diana's evidence. Amid this tension, Anne received a package without a return address. Inside was a name, Timothy Radcliffe, Diana's former private secretary. She remembered him as a quiet, loyal man who disappeared from public life after Diana's death. Anne tracked him to a small home outside Bath, and he agreed to meet her at night in a chapel known to only a few. In the dim candlelight of the church, Timothy looked worn from years of silence. He got to the point quickly. "Your sister-in-law was not alone," he said. "She trusted a few of us, knowing we did not have a stake in the system. We waited for someone brave enough to take up her cause." Anne was stunned as Timothy explained. The official investigation into Diana's death had many gaps. Key evidence was ignored, and witnesses were silenced. CCTV footage from Paris went missing, and reports about a white Fiat seen at the scene were dismissed. He told her the case was never meant to be solved. It was just quietly closed. The weight of this new knowledge pressed on Anne. Diana had died searching for the truth. Anne had become a target by stepping into Diana's shoes. That evening, she returned home to find an envelope slipped under her door. The handwriting was unfamiliar, and the message was short: "Stop digging or join her." Anne stared at the words, her hands shaking slightly. The threat was clear, but they did not understand that fear had never guided her life. Now that she knew what Diana had died trying to reveal, she could not back down. The memory of her sister-in-law was no longer a whisper in the shadows. It was a powerful call to action, and Anne would not let Diana be silenced again. Days turned into nights as Princess Anne looked through Diana's evidence, uncovering an international operation hidden behind royal privilege. The deeper she investigated, the clearer it became. Diana's humanitarian work had put her in danger, as royal movements covered up arms deals and money laundering. The most brutal truth for Anne was that Diana had trusted people in her circle who were part of the system meant to destroy her. Anne found transactions tied to a relative she never suspected and felt sick with the realization. She contacted Timothy Radcliffe, and together they confronted an old Red Cross friend who confirmed that Diana was close to releasing a joint exposé that would implicate influential people. This report disappeared with Diana's death, which coincided with a journalist's suspicious overdose weeks later, another closed case. Among her findings, Anne discovered a file labeled Operation Marionette, containing emails discussing the monitoring of Diana's movements. A surveillance image showed the Paris tunnel before the crash, revealing an unknown car linked to a royal associate. Her hands shook as she realized the crash had been staged, and the influential people behind it were still active and watching. Anne stood quietly, understanding that Diana had been hunted, and the hunt was still far from over. The emotional breakdown. Princess Anne sat alone by the crackling fire, reflecting on a life she had once overlooked. Nearby, an image of Diana, who had shone brightly yet faced challenges, was pinned up. Tonight, Anne didn't feel like a royal. She saw a woman who had cried for help but went unheard. A tear rolled down her cheek, surprising her. Known for being composed, Anne broke down, crying for the sister-in-law she had misunderstood. She thought of Diana, who had entered a complex world with only her heart for protection. As Anne remembered dismissing Diana's fears as dramatics, she saw the truth now. "I should have seen it," she whispered. Guilt weighed heavily on her. The palace and her family had ignored Diana's pleas for help. Diana didn't seek attention. She wanted to protect her children. While rereading one of Diana's letters, Anne realized how the palace had silenced her. She clutched the letter tightly and cried again. Despite all the royal ceremonies, they had overlooked a mother trying to shield her children from danger. Diana had not been a threat, she had been a shield. Just as Anne gathered herself, her phone buzzed with an urgent message. "Ma'am," Timothy Radcliffe said, "there's been movement at Lambrook. Someone tried to get in. Security stopped them, but they're targeting the boys now. You need to get to him." The call ended and Anne's heart raced. Her sons were in danger. She contacted only those she trusted, including a retired MI5 director who owed Diana a favor. Within the hour, a secret team was sent to protect Prince George at school. Anne left Kensington in the dark with flash drives and documents that Diana had risked everything to gather. The plan was to expose the network before it could attack again. Anne confronted two senior royals involved in Diana's reports. "You let this happen," she said firmly. One royal shifted nervously, saying the situation was complicated. "These are crimes. Your silence won't protect you anymore," Anne replied, placing a folder filled with evidence on the table. She clarified that the evidence would be shared with the public if anything happened to her family. Meanwhile, MI5 noted strange activity near Prince William's estate. An unregistered delivery van had blueprints and tampered brakes for a staff vehicle. It was a warning. Anne watched George leave school under tight security, and an hour later, Catherine's SUV was forced off the road. The driver survived, but it was apparent this was no accident. Anne steeled herself as she realized the network had begun its attack. It was war, and she was ready to fight for Diana's legacy. Diana's final victory. The morning after the attack, Princess Anne stood in front of a podium, with MI5 agents and sealed evidence from Diana's hidden collection behind her. "For years we shared an incomplete story," she said. "Diana died not just as a symbol of compassion, but as a woman seeking justice." This shocking truth led to the resignations and arrests of high-ranking officials and business leaders, as the network Diana uncovered began to unravel. Diana, who was once mocked for her emotions, was proven right. Her death was an act to protect the truth and her sons. In response, Anne created the Diana Truth Foundation to promote transparency and investigative journalism, changing Diana's legacy from tragedy to triumph. Later in her study, Anne found a cassette tape for William and Harry. On it, Diana shared a heartfelt message. "If you hear this, you know the truth. You are more than symbols. You have the power to change the world. Be brave, not fearful." Tears filled Anne's eyes as she realized Diana's final gift was love and strength. Diana was not just a princess, but a whistleblower and protector. Thanks to Anne's efforts, the truth is finally out. Join us for more true stories and help keep these voices alive. Each truth brings us closer to a future where silence does not win. Stay tuned for the next significant reveal.